Have you ever heard of the many benefits of salt for our body and our spirit? And do you know the ancient Buddhist practice of putting salt in your shoes? Salt is a food unfairly demonized by Western culture. It is, in fact, a very precious natural element for our body, and not only. In this then story, thanks to Buddhist wisdom, we will see the major benefits of salt for our organism, our body, and our spirit, and why therefore we should see him as an ally rather than an enemy. Plus, if you stick around to the end, you'll find out what the ancient Buddhist practice of putting salt in your shoes is all about. But before continuing, if you are not yet among us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so that you are informed when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. One day, while the cold winter wind lashed the monastery, the disciples gathered around the monk Oki for one of the many lessons in which to delve deeper into the most fascinating themes of spirituality. One of the disciples, with eyes shining with curiosity, raised the question, "Master Oki, many, especially in the West, speak very badly about salt. However, we have learned that everything has its balance. Could you share your wisdom with us, explaining the role of salt in our lives from a Buddhist perspective?" My dears, if we think about the many ways in which salt enriches our body, our mind, and our spirit, said Oki, we realize the enormous importance that this natural mineral has for our health. Once upon a time there was an elderly hermit, continued the monk, who through meditation and his close connection with nature discovered that salt not only gave flavor to foods, but also healing and nourishment to the body and spirit. You should know that salt is an essential element for the electrolyte balance of our body. Like the ebb and flow of ocean waves, salt regulates the fluid balance in our bodies, allowing our cells to function harmoniously. To better understand the role of salt, Oki told the story of a monk who, thanks to a balanced diet enriched with the right amount of salt, had experienced an improvement in his health and vitality. Salt, if used wisely, said Oki, helps maintain mental stability, allowing us to meditate with depth and clarity, as it regulates the passage of electrolytes in the brain. The disciples' eyes shone with understanding as Oki continued, talking about the beneficial effects of salt on digestion and the absorption of nutrients. He told of monks who, thanks to a balanced diet and correct assimilation of nutrients, thanks to the role of salt, had experienced an increase in their energy and vitality, fundamental for their spiritual path. But the elderly and wise monk did not limit himself to talking about the physical benefits of salt. He told of ancient spiritual practices involving this mineral as a symbol of purification and rebirth. Salt, Oki said solemnly, represents the profound connection between man and nature, between the body and the spirit. Every grain of salt reminds us that we are an integral part of the great flow of the universe, and invites us to live every moment of our existence with gratitude and awareness. As the disciples listened attentively to their master's words, savoring the depth of his wisdom, the sun lowered to the horizon, casting golden hues over the monastery gardens. But the journey into the world of salt and its profound essence was not yet over. Oki, seeing the eager look for knowledge in the faces of his disciples, decided to share further reflections and stories regarding his power in daily life and spiritual practices. Consider, dear disciples, Oki said in a thoughtful tone, that salt is not only a seasoning for our foods, but also a symbol of conservation and transformation. Observe how monks in ancient times preserved foods by adding salt, thus ensuring their survival during the long winter periods of fasting and meditation. But the preservative power of salt was not limited only to the preservation of food. Oki shared the ancient Buddhist custom of purifying rooms by throwing salt in the rooms and on the altars. These practices symbolize the removal of negative energies and the promotion of harmony and well-being, and originated from the disinfectant power of salt, also used for body care. Through purification with salt, said Oki, we can free the physical and mental spaces from harmful influences, thus paving the way for greater clarity and awareness. And as the disciples reflected on the words of the monk Oki, they began to understand the conservative and transformative power of salt, not only in their environments, but also within their minds and hearts. Salt is not only a physical element, but also a catalyst for our spiritual growth, continued the monk. Through the practice of purifications and blessings with salt, in fact, we can free ourselves from the chains of the past and embrace with confidence our future. Seeing the look eager for knowledge in the faces of his disciples, Oki decided to talk about how salt was also a powerful tool for concentration and contemplation. And he told the story of a monk who, through the practice of meditation with salt, had managed to calm his agitated mind and find profound inner peace. Meditation with salt is a contemplative practice that involves the use of salt as an object of concentration and reflection during the meditative session, added the monk. If you want to try this type of meditation, he continued, you need to get a container with coarse salt free of impurities. Place it in front of you and look at it so that you concentrate solely on it. Observe its texture, its color, the way the light reflects on it. In this way, during meditation sessions, you will be able to distract yourself less and remain anchored in the present moment. Master Oki asked the disciple, you promised to tell us about the ancient practice of putting salt in your shoes. Can you explain to us what it consists of and what it is used for? The monk smiled and began, this practice has roots that go back to the remotest past, when our ancestors walked through wild and impervious lands. In those times, salt was a precious commodity, a symbol of purity and protection. There are many reasons to put salt in your shoes, he said. First of all, when we put salt in our shoes, it absorbs moisture which benefits our body. And this power of salt absorption has a significant spiritual implication. Indeed, just as the Buddha absorbs the suffering of the world, salt absorbs our negativities. When we put salt in our shoes, in addition to absorbing moisture, we are also symbolically allowing the salt to absorb spiritual impurities that may hinder our path. These impurities can take various forms, such as pessimism, negativity, fear, or doubt. Salt, acting as an energetic filter, helps us free ourselves from these harmful influences, purifying our path and protecting our mind and spirit. Furthermore, putting salt in your shoes can be considered an act of awareness and intention. When we perform this gesture, we are demonstrating our desire to purify ourselves and protect ourselves from negative influences, thus strengthening our commitment to a more conscious and spiritual life. In summary, salt's power to absorb impurities goes beyond the simple physical aspect. It is a powerful symbol of purification and protection that helps us keep our mind, body, and spirit free from harmful influences as we navigate our path in life. The third reason to put salt in your shoes is that it helps us maintain balance in several ways, both physically and symbolically. Physically, salt can act as a stabilizing agent. In fact, when we put salt in our shoes, it can distribute itself evenly under the sole, providing a rougher surface and increasing traction. This can help prevent slips and falls, especially on slippery or uneven surfaces, thus helping to maintain our physical balance while walking. Symbolically, the gesture of putting salt in your shoes also represents a commitment to inner balance. In spiritual practice, balance is often associated with stability of mind and spirit, as well as the ability to remain centered and steadfast in the face of life's challenges. To make the concept clearer, the monk told them the story of a young monk who, during a journey on foot, had managed to cross an unsafe bridge thanks to the balance given to him by the salt in his sandals. Fourth, said the monk, salt also has healing and disinfectant properties. In Oriental medicine, in fact, it is considered a natural remedy for relieving pain and tension, and putting salt in your shoes can soothe not only physical discomfort, but even the mental ones that we encounter along our spiritual path. Furthermore, thanks to a saline solution, skin wounds can be treated, disinfected, and healed. Already in past centuries, said Oki, the monks had learned to heal their wounds thanks to this remedy. The monk also talked about how putting salt in your shoes was a gesture of gratitude. Salt is a precious gift from the earth, and using it mindfully reminds us to be grateful for all that life offers us, both the joys and the challenges. The Master said, "Dear disciples," he continued, "putting salt in your shoes is also a rite of passage that connects us to past generations and to all the people who have walked this earth before us. Every grain of salt represents their stories, their challenges, and their victories. When we put it in our shoes, we join an eternal bond of wisdom and resilience that crosses time and space, transmitting their spirit and strength in our footsteps."